The year 2378 marked humanity's golden age. After centuries of strife and division, the nations of Earth united under the banner of the United Human Front. Technological marvels filled the skies, cities stretched toward the heavens, and humanity's colonies flourished across the solar system. Peace reigned for generations, with no external threats to darken the stars. That peace shattered when the signal came. Astronomers at the Titan Observatory first detected it, an unrelenting pulse of soundless energy that surged across the outer reaches of the solar system. At first, they thought it a natural phenomenon, a quirk of a distant cosmic event. But when deep space probes fell silent and transmissions from Pluto were replaced by static, it became clear something was coming. Multiple bogies, the technician's voice trembled in the control room. Hundreds, no, thousands of ships, all inbound from the Oort cloud. Admiral Leona Cade stood at the forefront of humanity's defense, watching the data stream on the tactical display. A veteran of a forgotten conflict against the alien Vargish raiders, Cade was hardened, resolute. But even she felt a chill as she studied the sheer scale of the incoming fleet. Each red blip represented a vessel of impossible size, far larger than anything Earth's coalition fleet could field. "It's a Dan Armada," whispered Commander Ezra Voss, her second-in-command, a man known for his sharp instincts and unyielding loyalty. "Not just an armada," Cade replied, her tone grim. "It's an invasion." The Zenith Dominion announced themselves the following day. A towering hologram of an alien overlord appeared above Earth's skies, its form both regal and terrifying, gleaming obsidian armor, glowing eyes, and a voice that echoed like 1,000 voices speaking as one. "We are the Zenith. Your kind has trespassed long enough in this galaxy. Surrender and be assimilated into the Dominion, or resist and be eradicated. You have 3 days to comply." Panic erupted across the solar system. Citizens demanded answers. Protesters flooded the streets. Could Earth, for all its technological advancements, stand against a foe of such overwhelming power? In a high-security briefing, Earth's leaders debated the ultimatum. Some argued for surrender, reasoning that survival as a subjugated species was preferable to extinction. Others called for defiance, unwilling to give up centuries of independence without a fight. Admiral Cade silenced the room with a single steely glance. "The moment we bow, we lose everything that makes us human. They think we're weak, but they don't understand us. Humanity doesn't break. We adapt, we fight, and we endure." Her words galvanized the United Human Front. Preparations for war began immediately. Orbital defense platforms activated. Every available ship was called to action, and scientists raced to develop new weapons. Cade dispatched a task force to Pluto, determined to intercept the Zenith scouts before they could advance further. As the coalition fleet launched into the void, Cade stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Resolute. She gazed at the stars, her voice unwavering. "They've come for us," she said. "Now let's show them what Earth is made of." When the coalition fleet arrived at the dwarf planet's coordinates, all that remained was a graveyard of shattered ice and debris. Zenith ships hovered in formation, their sleek black hulls reflecting the dim light of the distant sun. The destruction of the research outpost and its surrounding colonies was total. No survivors, no resistance. Admiral Cade stared at the tactical display aboard the Resolute, her jaw clenched. She had seen brutality in her time, but the precision of this devastation spoke to the Zenith's intent. This wasn't war, it was extermination. "Status report," she barked. "Enemy fleet consists of 20 vessels, all heavily shielded," Commander Voss replied. "They haven't noticed us yet." "Orders, Admiral." Cade's eyes narrowed. "We hit them hard and fast before they regroup. Target the largest ship, disable their command structure." The coalition fleet maneuvered silently into position, using the shadows of Pluto's fragments for cover. Cade's ships were dwarfed in size and power, but Earth's forces had something the Zenith seemed to underestimate: ingenuity. "Prepare the orbital lances," Cade commanded. "Fire on my mark." The Resolute's lance batteries hummed to life, their energy cores glowing white-hot. Around the flagship, smaller vessels armed their railguns and missile pods, ready to launch. "Now," Cade ordered. Blinding beams of energy erupted from the Coalition ships, striking the Zenith's lead vessel. The alien craft's shields shimmered violently, buckling under the concentrated assault. As missiles followed, explosions ripped through the enemy ship's hull, sending shockwaves into the icy void. The Zenith fleet responded instantly. Black ships surged forward like a swarm of predators, their energy weapons unleashing barrages of deadly light. One Coalition frigate disintegrated in the first volley, its crew's final transmission cut short by static. "Evasive maneuvers," Voss shouted. The battle descended into chaos. Coalition ships darted between debris fields, using the environment to outmaneuver the Zenith's overwhelming firepower. A destroyer took a glancing hit, its hull breached, but managed to crash into an enemy cruiser, taking both vessels out in a fiery explosion. "Admiral, they're adapting to our tactics," Voss warned. Cade's mind raced. The Zenith were relentless, their precision unnerving. But they lacked one thing: the desperation of humanity. "Redirect fire to their rear formations," she ordered. "Force them into the debris field. Use the environment against them." The Coalition fleet shifted tactics, targeting the smaller Zenith ships to create confusion. Chunks of Pluto's remnants became deadly projectiles as Earth's forces triggered controlled detonations, sending jagged ice and rock hurtling into the Zenith ranks. One by one, the Zenith vessels faltered. The Coalition's ingenuity turned the tide, but at a steep cost. Half the fleet was lost by the time the remaining Zenith ships retreated. As the dust settled, Cade stood on the bridge, her expression grim. They had won this battle, but it was only a beginning. The Zenith's might had been merely a fraction of what was coming. "This isn't over," she muttered, her gaze fixed on the void beyond. "Not by a long shot." The Coalition fleet limped back toward Earth, battered but victorious. Messages of celebration flooded the comm channels, but Admiral Cade's heart remained heavy. The Zenith's retreat wasn't a defeat, it was a recalibration. The enemy was learning, and learning fast. On the Resolute's bridge, Commander Voss stood by Cade, his arms crossed. "You don't believe they're regrouping for another hit on Pluto, do you?" Cade's gaze was fixed on the tactical map. "No, that was a probe. Their main force is still out there, waiting for the right moment to strike." Her fears were confirmed less than 24 hours later. A priority transmission from Mars Colony flashed onto the fleet's main network. Zenith ships had bypassed the outer defenses and launched precision strikes on critical industrial hubs. The colonies were in chaos, scrambling to defend themselves with minimal resources. "How did they get past our sensors?" Voss asked, incredulous. Cade's expression darkened. "They had help." A traitor's hand. In a high-security debrief on the Resolute, Intelligence Officer Malik presented his findings. Encrypted transmissions from Earth's government had been intercepted, containing sensitive fleet movements and defense protocols. The source of the leak pointed to none other than Marcus Delane, a powerful industrialist and one of Earth's wealthiest figures. Delane had long been a controversial figure. His sprawling corporation controlled key military contracts, and his public calls for negotiation with the Zenith had sown division within the United Human Front. Now, it seemed, he had gone further, feeding Earth's enemies in exchange for personal survival. Cade slammed her fist onto the briefing table. "He's not just a traitor. He's handed the Zenith the keys to our survival." Voss leaned forward, his tone sharp. "What's our play? Arrest him? Publicly expose him?" Cade shook her head. "Not yet. If Delane's working with the Zenith, they'll be watching him. We expose him too early, and we lose our chance to trace his contacts. We need to bait the trap. Mars in flames. While a covert team set out to monitor Delane, Cade dispatched reinforcements to Mars. She and Voss led the fleet into a pitched battle above the Red Planet. The Zenith's smaller strike force had already inflicted devastating losses, but the Coalition fleet's arrival turned the tide. "Target their command ships," Cade ordered. "Cut off their retreat routes." The battle was brutal and swift. Human ingenuity once again prevailed as Coalition ships outmaneuvered the Zenith in Mars' treacherous atmosphere. Ground forces rallied behind the counterattack, pushing Zenith troops into retreat. Amidst the chaos, Voss uncovered a crucial clue: fragments of a Zenith communication device carried by one of their soldiers. Analysis revealed coordinates pointing to a hidden meeting site near the asteroid belt, an apparent rendezvous between the Zenith and their human collaborators. The truth revealed. The victory at Mars felt hollow as reports of Delane's movements confirmed the worst. He was on a personal shuttle en route to the coordinates found in the communication device. "Set a course," Cade commanded. "We're ending this, now." As the fleet prepared to intercept, Cade's thoughts simmered. The Zenith weren't just a superior force, they were manipulators, sowing dissent within humanity. But no betrayal, no enemy would break them. "They think they've weakened us," she muttered. "All they've done is unite us." The asteroid belt loomed in the distance, its jagged rocks floating silently in the void. Marcus Delane's shuttle was a speck on the tactical display aboard the Resolute, making its way toward a Zenith cruiser hidden within the field. "Delane's moving to finalize whatever deal he's made with them," Commander Voss muttered, studying the screen. "If we're going to stop him, it has to be here." Admiral Cade nodded. "We're not just stopping him. We're sending a message to the Zenith and to every human watching. Betray Earth and you'll pay the price." The Resolute and its escorts cloaked their approach, their sensor-dampening systems active. The plan was to strike hard and fast, disabling the Zenith ship and capturing Delane before he could escape. As the fleet crept closer, a new signal emerged on their sensors. "Admiral," Voss said, his voice tense. "I'm reading multiple Zenith vessels. It's an ambush. #### a trap sprung." The asteroid field came alive with movement as hidden Zenith ships emerged from behind massive rocks. They had been waiting, their weapons already charged. Energy beams sliced through the void, narrowly missing the Coalition's lid frigates. "Evasive maneuvers," Cade shouted. "Shields up. All units engage." The Resolute unleashed a volley of railgun rounds, shattering a smaller Zenith scout ship into pieces. Around it, Coalition ships scrambled to find cover within the dense asteroid field. The Zenith fleet pressed its advantage, their energy weapons carving through the Coalition's front line. But Cade had anticipated this possibility. "Deploy the mines," she ordered. Coalition drones launched dozens of micromines into the asteroid belt, creating a deadly perimeter. As Zenith ships pursued, the mines detonated, taking out 2 cruisers and forcing the others to slow their advance. In the chaos, a strike team led by Commander Voss launched from the Resolute. Their mission: board Delane's shuttle and bring the traitor back alive. The strike team. Voss and his team breached the shuttle, quickly dispatching Delane's hired security. Inside, they found the industrialist cowering behind a locked door. "Marcus Delane," Voss said, his voice dripping with contempt as he tore the door open. "By order of the United Human Front, you're under arrest for treason." Delane's face twisted with fear and defiance. "You don't understand," he spat. "The Zenith can't be stopped. I was securing humanity's survival. By selling us out," Voss grabbed him by the collar. "We'll survive, without cowards like you." As Voss's team secured Delane, alarms blared. The Zenith cruiser was moving to intercept, its weapons locking onto the shuttle. Project Aegis unleashed. Meanwhile, aboard the Resolute, Cade gave the order to deploy Earth's newest weapon, Project Aegis, a high-energy EMP pulse designed to disrupt Zenith shields and electronics, had finally been completed after weeks of desperate work. "Target the Zenith flagship," Cade commanded. The Resolute fired the Aegis device. A pulse of blue energy rippled outward, enveloping the Zenith ships. Their shields flickered and died, leaving them vulnerable. Coalition ships capitalized, tearing through the exposed Zenith fleet with railguns and missiles. In minutes, the tide of the battle turned. The remaining Zenith ships retreated into the asteroid field, their formation shattered. Victory and consequences. As the Resolute pulled the shuttle aboard, Delane was escorted to the brig, his protests drowned out by cheers from the crew. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had not only survived, but dealt a crippling blow to the Zenith. Cade addressed her crew. "This was a battle, not the war. The Zenith will return, and they'll be angrier than ever. But today, we showed them what humanity is capable of." In the silence that followed, Cade's resolve hardened. Project Aegis was the key to turning the tide, but the Zenith wouldn't be caught off guard again. The next battle would demand even greater sacrifices. "Let them come," she muttered. "We'll be ready." Victory in the asteroid belt energized humanity's defenses, but it also raised questions. Why hadn't the Zenith deployed their full strength yet? And what was their ultimate goal? Admiral Cade knew that sitting back and waiting for answers wasn't an option. While Earth's engineers worked tirelessly to replicate and improve upon Project Aegis, Cade had another plan, a bold strike into Zenith-controlled space. "Operation Lantern," she announced in a high-security briefing. "We take the fight to them. Hit their staging grounds, learn their strategies, and disrupt their plans before they can regroup." The room erupted in murmurs. Commander Voss, standing at Cade's side, raised an eyebrow. "You're proposing we invade Zenith territory." Cade nodded. "They've underestimated us before. Let's make sure they keep doing it." A daring mission. The mission would rely on the Shadowblade, Earth's most advanced stealth cruiser, equipped with cloaking technology that could evade Zenith sensors. A small, elite team would infiltrate a Zenith outpost located deep within their controlled sector. Their objective: steal critical data on Zenith fleet movements and uncover the purpose behind their invasion. Cade herself would lead the mission. "Admiral," Voss said as they prepared to depart, "if we lose you out there—" "You won't," Cade interrupted, her tone firm. "But if I don't come back, you know what to do. Keep Earth standing." Voss saluted, his expression resolute. "Yes, ma'am." The Zenith outpost. The Shadowblade slipped through enemy lines, its advanced systems masking its presence. The Zenith outpost loomed ahead, a sprawling station built into a massive asteroid. Its design was alien and foreboding, all sharp angles and pulsating lights. Cade's team docked undetected, their EVA suits blending into the void. Moving with precision, they infiltrated the station, neutralizing Zenith patrols with silenced plasma rifles. Inside, the outpost was a hive of activity. Zenith soldiers moved with purpose, their communication guttural and alien. The team planted charges on key systems, preparing for an explosive exit. At the central data core, Cade and her tech specialist, Lieutenant Harper, began downloading the Zenith's database. As Harper worked, Cade examined the surrounding displays. What she saw chilled her. The Zenith weren't just attacking Earth, they were assimilating conquered worlds, stripping them of resources, technology, and life. Worse, the data hinted at a massive superweapon under construction, capable of eradicating entire planets. "This isn't an invasion," Cade whispered, "it's extermination." Escape under fire. As the download completed, alarms blared. The Zenith had discovered the intrusion. "Cade, we've got company," Harper shouted. The team fought their way back to the Shadowblade, narrowly avoiding overwhelming Zenith reinforcements. Cade detonated the planted charges as they escaped, crippling the outpost. The Shadow Blade evaded pursuing Zenith ships, using asteroid fields and its cloaking systems to slip back into Coalition space. A grim revelation. Back aboard the Resolute, Cade presented the data to Earth's leaders. The Zenith strategy was clear now. Earth was merely the first step in their plan to consume the galaxy. "They're building something," Cade said, pointing to schematics of the superweapon. "And if we don't stop them before it's operational, there won't be an Earth to defend." The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. Voss broke the tension. "Then we hit them again, harder this time." Cade nodded, her determination unshaken. "We don't just fight to survive, we fight to win." The battle lines were drawn, and humanity's next move would determine its fate. The revelation of the Zenith superweapon sent shockwaves through the United Human Front. Earth's leaders convened an emergency summit, with Admiral Cade at the helm. The data recovered from the Zenith outpost painted a grim picture. The superweapon, codenamed Oblivion, was nearly operational. "We have no choice," Cade said, addressing the gathered council. "We strike now, before Oblivion becomes fully functional. If we wait, we lose everything." The room erupted into debate. Some advocated for reinforcing Earth's defenses, fearing a direct assault would leave the planet vulnerable. Others argued that humanity couldn't afford to fight defensively any longer. "Admiral Cade is right," Commander Voss interjected, his voice firm. "The Zenith will keep coming until we're wiped out. This is our chance to disrupt their plans, to turn the tide once and for all." Reluctantly, the Council approved the Operation Hammerfall. Allies in desperation. Cade knew that even with Earth's entire fleet, taking on the Zenith at their core would be a suicide mission. Humanity needed allies. She reached out to the remnants of the Vargash, a once hostile alien race decimated by the Zenith decades earlier. The Vargash were scattered and broken, but their hatred for the Zenith burned as fiercely as humanity's will to survive. The negotiations were tense. The Vargash leader, Elder Calverin, was skeptical of humanity's chances. "You think you can succeed where we failed?" Calverin growled, his voice deep and guttural. "The Zenith crushed us without mercy. What makes you any different?" "We're not different," Cade replied, her gaze unwavering. "But together, we're stronger. You've seen what they're capable of. Join us, and we'll make them pay for what they've done. To you, to us, to everyone." After a long silence, Calverin extended a clawed hand. "You have the Vargash. We will fight." The plan. Operation Hammerfall was the most ambitious and dangerous mission humanity had ever undertaken. Coalition and Vargash forces would launch a two-pronged assault. 1. A diversionary fleet would attack Zenith supply lines, drawing their forces away from the superweapon. 2. Meanwhile, a strike team led by Cade would infiltrate Oblivion itself, planting charges to destroy the weapon from within. Time was critical. The Zenith were already mobilizing to defend their prize. The battle begins. The combined human Vargash fleet jumped into Zenith territory, engaging their forces in a ferocious battle. The Zenith fought with ruthless precision, but the unconventional tactics of the Coalition and the sheer ferocity of the Vargash caught them off guard. "Diversion fleet is holding," Voss reported over comms. "They're buying us time, Admiral." Aboard the stealth cruiser Shadow Blade, Cade and her team approached Oblivion. The massive superweapon loomed like a dark god, its size dwarfing even the largest Zenith ships. Its surface bristled with weapons and shields, but the Shadow Blade slipped through undetected. "This is it," Cade said, her voice steady. "Let's make it count." Into the heart of the beast. The strike team breached Oblivion's outer hull, navigating its labyrinthine corridors. The scale of the weapon was staggering. Vast chambers filled with alien machinery, pulsating with energy. "Plant the charges," Cade ordered. "We don't leave until this thing is dust." As they moved deeper into the weapon, Zenith resistance grew fiercer. The team fought relentlessly, their determination outweighing the overwhelming odds. But something was wrong. The superweapon was more than just a machine. Its core thrummed with an almost sentient energy, and Cade couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. "This isn't just a weapon," she muttered. "It's something more." The countdown. With the charges set and the timer ticking, the team raced back to the extraction point. The Zenith were closing in, their soldiers swarming the corridors. "Go!" Cade shouted, covering her team's retreat with precise bursts from her plasma rifle. "We'll finish this." As the timer neared 0, the Shadowblade sped away from Oblivion, its cloaking systems barely holding against the weapon's defenses. From the bridge, Cade watched as the charges detonated, a chain reaction tearing through Oblivion's structure. The weapon collapsed in on itself, a brilliant explosion lighting up the void. But even as the superweapon fell, Cade knew the war was far from over. The Zenith would retaliate, and humanity's greatest battle was yet to come. The explosion of Oblivion was a fleeting triumph, its brilliant light swallowed by the vastness of space. The Zenith fleet's stunned silence lasted only moments before chaos erupted. Communications from the diversionary fleet poured in, desperate and frantic. "They're regrouping," Voss said, his voice tight over the comm. "The Zenith are redirecting everything to our position. We've got maybe minutes before they overwhelm us." "Understood," Cade replied, her tone calm despite the tension. "Get the diversion fleet out of there. We'll rendezvous at fallback point Sigma." The Shadowblade sped through the wreckage of Oblivion, its cloaking device flickering from the strain of Zenith sensors scanning the area. Cade stood on the bridge, her knuckles white as she gripped the console. They had struck a devastating blow, but it had cost them dearly. Many ships in the diversionary fleet were lost, and the Zenith's wrath was palpable. The Zenith counterattack. The Coalition fleet regrouped near a barren moon on the edge of Zenith territory. Damaged ships limped into formation, their crews battered but unbroken. Among them were Vargish vessels, their once proud warcraft now scorched and scared. Cade's tactical display showed the incoming Zenith Armada, an overwhelming force of warships, larger and more advanced than anything humanity or the Vargish could field. They weren't retreating, they were retaliating, determined to crush the upstart alliance. "We can't fight that head-on," Voss said, his voice low. Cade's jaw tightened. "No, but we're not running either." She turned to the gathered commanders on the fleet-wide comms. "This is it. The Zenith want to make an example of us. Let's make them regret it. Every ship has a role. Every pilot, every gunner, every engineer. We hold the line. We survive. And we make sure they don't forget what it means to face humanity." The fleet erupted in cheers, a collective roar of defiance. The last stand. As the Zenith fleet closed in, Cade orchestrated a brilliant defense. Using the barren moon's gravity well, the Coalition and Vargas ships set traps, launching surprise attacks from hidden positions. Project Aegis, now integrated across multiple vessels, proved critical. EMP pulses disabled Zenith shields, leaving their ships vulnerable to precise counterattacks. The Vargish fought with unmatched fury, their ships ramming into Zenith cruisers when weapons failed. The battle raged for hours, each moment a desperate struggle for survival. Cade moved the Resolute into the heart of the fight, coordinating strikes and rallying her forces. A desperate gamble. Despite their efforts, the Zenith's superior numbers began to take their toll. Coalition ships fell one by one, and the Zenith flagship, a massive dreadnought bristling with weapons, loomed ominously at the edge of the battlefield. "They're charging a planetary cannon," Voss reported grimly. "If they fire that, we're done." Cade's mind raced. "Get me firing solutions on their flagship. We'll ram it if we have to." "Admiral," Voss began, but Cade cut him off. "We don't win this by surviving. We win by making sure they don't. Human ingenuity prevails." As the flagship's cannon charged, Cade ordered every remaining ship to focus fire on its shield generators. In a last-ditch effort, she directed the Resolute straight at the Zenith dreadnought. Project Aegis charged for one final pulse. Brace for impact. The Resolute unleashed the pulse at point-blank range, collapsing the flagship's shields. Coalition and Vargas ships poured their firepower into the exposed hull, tearing the dreadnought apart in a massive explosion. Victory at a cost. The Zenith fleet, disoriented and leaderless, retreated into deep space. The battlefield fell silent, save for the crackle of damaged comms and the distant glow of debris. Cheers erupted across the fleet, but Cade's heart was heavy. Half their forces were gone, including many of their finest ships and warriors. This wasn't just a victory, she said to Voss, her voice weary. It was a warning, to us and to them. We can fight back, but the war isn't over. Voss nodded, his face grim. They'll return. And so will we, Cade replied. Stronger, smarter, united. Humanity had stood tall, proving that even against endless adversity, they could endure. But the greatest challenge still lay ahead. The shattered remnants of the Zenith fleet limped away, their retreat a silent testament to the fierceness of humanity's resolve. The Coalition fleet, though battered and broken, had held. They had not only survived the onslaught, but had crippled the Zenith's leadership, severing their central command and causing chaos within their ranks. It was a victory, but a costly one. The silence that followed the battle was almost unbearable. The ships drifted in the cold expanse of space, their hulls scared from the ferocity of the conflict. But amidst the wreckage, there was a sense of quiet triumph, a collective breath held in the face of overwhelming odds. The price of victory. On the Resolute, Cade stood alone on the observation deck, gazing out at the wreckage of the battle. The stars, distant and uncaring, flickered softly against the backdrop of the silent void. She had led her people to victory, but the weight of the loss pressed heavily upon her heart. The Federation's communications lines buzzed with the grim reports. The casualty lists were long. Many of the fleet's most experienced officers had fallen. Whole divisions of soldiers and pilots had been wiped out. Even with the Zenith's retreat, the human cost of the war was staggering. Behind her, Commander Voss entered, his expression grave but resolute. "Admiral," he began, "the surviving fleet has gathered at the fallback coordinates. The Vargas are waiting for us to assess the damage and coordinate the next steps." Cade nodded but didn't turn around. It's a hollow victory. We saved Earth. We stopped the Zenith. That's not hollow. Cade sighed, her shoulders heavy with the burden of leadership. But at what cost? So many lives, so much sacrifice. We've given everything, and the Zenith aren't gone. They'll be back. Voss stepped forward, his voice firm. We knew what we were up against from the start. They'll come again, but this time we're ready. This time, we don't just defend. We take the fight to them, and we finish it. A new resolve. The Resolute's bridge came alive with activity as the fleet's remaining forces gathered for the next phase. Cade addressed her officers, their faces weary but determined. We've proven that we can fight the Zenith and win, Cade began, her voice carrying the weight of their victory and their losses. But we've also learned something crucial. This isn't just a war of survival, it's a war for our future. A future we'll forge together, as humans, as allies, as a united front. She paused, looking around at the crew, the men and women who had fought alongside her. We won't stop here. Earth is safe for now. But we will hunt the Zenith, push them from our home, and take the fight to their doorstep. Our victory was not an end, but a beginning. This war is far from over, but I promise you when it's done, it will be us standing tall, not the Zenith. There was a quiet moment before Voss, his hand clenched into a fist, raised it in salute. To humanity. To humanity, the crew echoed, a unified voice rising from the depths of their souls. A galaxy in flames. In the cold depths of space, Far from Earth's orbit, the Zenith fleet regrouped. Their flagship, a towering symbol of their empire, lay in ruin, but their will to conquer had not wavered. The Zenith leaders, now scrambling for control in the wake of their defeat, issued an urgent command across their vast network. Their first priority was clear: they would rebuild. They would not allow the humans' defiance to go unpunished. As the remnants of the Zenith fleet drifted into the dark reaches of space, a new directive was sent to every corner of their empire. "We will crush humanity," the message began, "and when we return, we will take not just Earth, but every human world. The flames of war will consume the galaxy, and when the ashes settle, we will reign supreme." The final countdown. Back on Earth, the rebuilding had already begun. The war had taken its toll, but humanity's spirit remained unbroken. The people who had once been divided, fighting amongst themselves, had now found unity in their common enemy. They had found strength in the struggle for survival. Admiral Cade stood once more on the observation deck of the Resolute, staring out at the stars. The battle was over, but the war raged on. Humanity's resolve had been tested, and they had emerged victorious, but only just. But one thing was certain: the Zenith would return. And when they did, Earth would be ready. For humanity, the fight had only just begun.